Thank you for watching, liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing right now.
And that's kind of where we're at with some of these new energy technologies. Third is it is accepted as self-evident. It's like, of course, so obvious. Now, it's that same picture of the inventor. Somebody's taken a little license. I love this quote. We also have this one on the bottom of our websites. When you're one step ahead of the crowd, you're a genius. When you're 2 steps ahead, you're a crackpot. And so, you know, our websites get around 35,000 page views a day, which is pretty good, but it's nothing compared to what it would be if it was just 1 step ahead. And so, you know, we don't get a lot of traffic, and it's increasing, but what we're trying to do is to build a bridge between the 2-step ahead technologies and the 1-step ahead technologies. We put them all together. We compare wind, solar, geothermal with magnet motors, cold fusion, et cetera, which also are legitimate modalities with working prototypes. When we say free energy, what we're trying to do is redefine the field. We're not talking about perpetual motion. We're not talking about lifting yourself up by your own bootstraps. We're talking about energy sources that are free. The sun is free. The wind is free. Tides are free. Cold fusion harnesses a free energy. Magnet motors probably harness some kind of a magnetic property we don't fully understand. It's not coming from nowhere. Just because you don't see radio waves doesn't mean they're not there. We understand that fully nowadays, but if you were an Aborigine seeing somebody with a radio talkulous to you, but it's not miracle, it's just advanced science. And so open your mind to new ideas as you see these new technologies, and don't shut them out just because they seem impossible. And here's an extended list of some of these technologies. You've probably heard of many of these, but on the right-hand side under the exotic, electrostatic, you know, pulling energy out of the air, basically. Zero-point energy you've heard of probably. Joe cell orgone, you know, that's in the quack or the 2 steps ahead crackpot category. Beta voltaics, where you can get energy from the decay of radioactive material. Brown's gas, these are fascinating technologies, and we put these all together in our news and in our directory, and as people can relate to wind, you know, that's the 1 step ahead stuff, and then we hit them with the 2 steps ahead, and it kind of helps assimilate, so it's not so weird anymore. There's also other things that we like to cover, talking about efficiency and conservation. These are also along the lines of energy sources. If you can cut the amount of power your device uses, that's like getting more energy. There's a lot of ways to do that that you're familiar with. You've seen these before. Now, when we review energy technologies, we use 10 criteria, and we weigh all the technologies equally. In other words, against these same criteria. Is it renewable? What's its environmental impact? Is it affordable? How credible is the evidence for it? How reliable would it be? Is it easy to implement? How safe is it? The politics of science. You have these brilliant scientists who are impossible to work with. And they're their own worst enemy. And their technology goes nowhere, not because it has no value, but because it's impossible to work with them. So their technology would rank lower, even though the technology itself would rank higher. How friendly is it toward open sourcing is something that we evaluate. And when I say we, I'm talking about an organization called the New Energy Congress that I founded about 1.5 years ago, which is comprised of about 40 energy professionals from around the planet. We look at these different energy technologies and we say, you know, how valuable is this one compared to this one? And we have a top 100 energy technology listing so that the technologies of most merit can start getting more attention, get networked, get funded, get business interests wrapped around it, and kind of help percolate the best things and get them facilitated into the marketplace. One of the things that I've found as I've had websites and other things is you stand for something, and this is a principle that's going to apply to all of you. You stand for something, you build it, and they come. You know, you listen to these talk shows, for example, and you say, where do they come up with these incredible speakers and topics? It's just this law of attraction. You stand for something, and people that like that subject are gravitate towards you, send you stuff, and you just start building that community. So that's one of the things that helps us grow, and that's where you come in, is because the tools that the internet provide enable this and other technologies to grow as they can. Now here's a technology I was personally involved with. It's showing up on here, but it's not there. What?
Propylene, polyethylene, one of those type of plastics. You'll notice the frame, which is quite large in this particular unit, but this has been changed.
Okay.
The new unit has,
I guess we'll have to skip that one.
That is the speed control.
This was a technology, it's a magnet motor that you've probably, some of you may have seen this video on the internet. It's a Pirillo magnet motor, and it has 3 clamshell stators that come in toward the rotors in the middle, and as it comes in, the rotor starts spinning, and all it is magnets repelling magnets. So the stators come in, and the rotor starts spinning, and it accelerates as he's talking in the video, and then he pulls the stators apart, and it starts decelerating, and then it kind of rocks back and forth, comes to a stop. Now, the video is not skeptic-proof. Somebody could say, well, they had a cheater device on the back, you know, rotating it, that's how it worked. I don't think that's what happened. I did go to Johannesburg and visit with him. We actually helped assemble that. We took it out of the machine shop, put it together, put the magnets in it. We couldn't get it to work while we were there, but 2 months later, he sent us this video, and a couple years later, he allowed us to publish it on the internet. And now it's all over YouTube, probably 1 million plus visits on that. But I mentioned that one as an example of a technology that's not supposed to work, but you know, there's evidence that it does. And I've heard of about 20 different entities, people who are claiming that they've done this, that they have a magnet motor that works. Magnets repelling magnets, whether it's harnessing zero-point energy or some magnetic force we don't understand, something's going on there. Cold fusion is another one that's gotten a bad rap. It had a bad start, got a bad stigma, and they've been fighting that ever since, but there have been hundreds of replications of that technology. They have annual conferences, a number of annual conferences around the planet, where they give scholarly papers that are published in peer-reviewed journals in their community, and yet the academic community tends to poo-poo this to this day. One company, D2 Fusion, is looking at introducing a cold fusion heater into the marketplace possibly as early as next year. And that Pons and Fleischmann, Mr. Fleischmann is working with that company. Okay, here's kind of a fun one. This is something that came up on the internet last week. This is an art teacher in University of Central Florida, was just playing around in his kitchen, can of dog food, 3 toothpicks, set it on top of another toothpick, put a graphite pencil, and the thing started spinning. He took a picture of it, put it on the internet, and then the next day, the next day, he posts a video of a little gravity wheel thing, and it had 2 circular wheels on the end with little dowels that would rotate back and forth. He sets it on the ground, and the thing starts rolling forward. Now, that sounded pretty exciting, and the next day actually the first day he posted one that he designed, and then he posted that one. Okay, here we go. Sure. Okay.
On August 6,
Here we go.
2007, Scott F. Hall built a gravity wheel based on his research on the subject. He then posted a video of it rolling along a floor, seemingly of its own power. Then on August 8th, he built another gravity wheel, this time a replica of one done by another researcher. His video showed that one accelerating along his floor as well. Had Scott cracked the code that seemed to have been lost with the death of Bessler, who died in 1745, taking his technology to the grave with him? It looked to be so, but Scott's video was not complete. He did not show the wheel rolling both directions on the same surface to rule out an incline in the surface. He's an art teacher, not a scientist, and with the barrage of skeptical comments, rather than show a follow-up video of the wheel going both directions, his next video showed his two gravity wheels in a heap of fire. Meanwhile, we had our PhD mechanical engineer, Douglas K. Furr, replicate the design. Unfortunately for the optimist in us that wanted this to be a working design, Furr's replication shows that the design does not work, but decelerates as the physicist would predict.
So not everything works. There's a lot, when you get outside the box, there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of sifting that has to go on, and most people don't have the stomach for it. And so what we try and do is, with this gathering of professionals, people who know various things about, there's a solar professional, wind professional, electromagnetic professional, ZPE professional, we can then, as a collective brain trust, look at these technologies and kind of filter them on behalf of the public, but sometimes things that have not yet been validated seep through in our enthusiasm, and this was one such story. These were our headline stories this last week. In fact, the one I just showed you, we produced this video today. This is fresh stuff. In fact, I was on Mountain Time on my computer, and I thought I was supposed to be in here in just 1 minute, and my tech guy had just barely given me the URL 1 second before I had to close down my computer and come in. So that's fresh stuff. Here is, when you're talking about open sourcing a technology, imagine what would happen. Let's just say, for example, that motor, that little gravity motor, really worked. I had my friend build that because I just picturing in my mind taking this thing here and rolling it across the floor, both directions. That would be pretty cool, wouldn't it? Basically, a mechanism of harvesting static gravity waves that physicists would say that's impossible, yet some guy does it, and here it is. You can all see it. That would be pretty cool, and that would go viral really fast. So instead of having a negative report saying, well, we did it and it doesn't work, the report would be, we built one, here it is, and watch it work. Come play with it, pass it around the aisle, let you look at it. That would be pretty cool. And can you imagine, at some point, there's going to come a technology that's going to be very simple, easy to build, inexpensive to build. It's got a sex appeal because it's like, that shouldn't be working, yet there it is, it's working. That thing is going to just blow the lid off of the suppression that's happened, the skepticism that's happened, and that's the project that we're looking for. And we've been at this for about 3 years. We've had a few open source projects, but nothing that has really gone viral. But there have been a few projects that have been fairly fruitful for us. Another thing to talk about in open sourcing energy technologies, very often the inventors worried about, I've spent 20 years of my life and you expect me to just give this away? There are mechanisms built into open sourcing that can provide financial input. You've got instruction manuals. You can make really nice PDF presentation that people can download. $30 a pop, for example, is not too much. You can get the plans for free on the internet, but you have to click through this page, this page, this page. But if you want something you can just print out all in one document, save the trouble, $30, and there's a revenue center. You can sell kits. Here's the components. If you don't want to source all this stuff, we'll just ship it to you. You can put it together. You can sell the completed unit. You can do, the inventor, of course, is going to be sought out for consultation. Companies that want to take this technology to market are going to want to have input And so there's consulting fees. There could be licensing fees for advanced iterations that the inventor's working on. And then, of course, as I mentioned, the finished products that you can sell. As different companies come up with completed units, your site's an awesome place to advertise it. And also, there's the advertising value for other things that are related. So there are, I think there's a viable business model in an open sourcing energy technology, but we can't expect the inventor to be the one to take the risk that this is going to work. What we need is a group of people, including financial interests, who are willing to put the money up and say, okay, here's $2 million. You know, give $1 million to the inventor when the technology is proven and replicated. He gets the $2 million or $1 million, whatever the agreement is, and then you give it to the world. As you build an open source page, here are some of the components we found are important. You have an overview page. You have a page of instructions, how to make this thing, complete with circuits, diagrams, photos, etc. Legal information, are there any encumbrances on this technology? Is there a patent? A quasi-open source project would be one where you have a patent, but the inventor says, yeah, here, make it if you want, but if you're going to commercialize this, talk to us and we'll give you a license. Replications, you have a page where people who are making this thing can post information about the replication, videos. Here's my address, come by and take a look at it. You want to publish the data that comes from these replications. The latest, you have a news page for this project so people know kind of what's happening most recently. And I think most importantly, you want to have a discussion list particular to that project where people can chat back and forth. And then from that discussion list, you want to have somebody or several people who will accumulate the best information and then put it on the website where it can be presented clearly in an organized fashion so the newcomers don't have to weed through this big, long discussion, 10,000 messages to get all the important information. It's all compiled on the website. So you have the discussion and the website. It's a great combination of resources. There's various gradations we talked about of open source. One is just a complete giveaway. There's no intellectual property ownership in terms of retaining, you have to have permission from me. That would be a complete giveaway. One would be where there's a patent pending with permission to make copies, but talk to us about a license. Then the most extreme case would be something that's patented and allowing individual replications, but no sales whatsoever, even for no profit sales. Like if you make one and you just cover expenses, they wouldn't even allow that. So that would kind of be the extreme end of a quasi-open source model. Here's one project that you see out there in the hall. We went up to John Bedini's lab with Peter Lindemann was there working with him at the time. And they had this little gizmo that has magnets around the edges, and it would spin. An input battery would charge an output battery, but not directly. It would make the wheel spin. The wheel spinning would then charge the output battery, and the mechanical energy of the wheel with the battery charge was purported to be more than the input from the input battery because somehow there was some electromagnetic principle that the zero-point energy or something was being harnessed and being sucked into the system and showing up in the torque and in the battery. There have been about 500 replications of this device. That one out there is the first one that was built. And that's a fun technology. It's a kindergarten level of what may be the next generation of energy technology on the planet. A water fuel cell, eventually the idea of running your car on water. There have been a lot of stories about this that circulate in the news, different developments in electrolysis. There's a process where you can electrolyze water, put the hydrogen into the air intake of the vehicle, and it actually facilitates a more effective burn of the fuel. And so you get a much more viable process of, you get less emissions, greater efficiency, and if you can increase the efficiency of the hydrogen production, you can eventually get to the point where the economy goes from 15%, 20%, 50%, then 100%, where you're running completely on water. But eventually, if you start running cars on water, you're competing with culinary, and that's not going to be helpful. So there are some downsides to that. It may sound sexy, but you have to consider all things. Ammonia heat pump, this is one that we covered recently. This is a technology that was developed back in actually a century ago, very well proven, and kind of petered out in the 30s as oil prices just were so cheap. They couldn't compete with that. And so this technology was put on the shelf, but I think it's time to take another look at this, because if we use this technology, you could power your home at 1/5 the cost that you're paying for electricity right now. So this is a key technology. It's so old, you don't have any more patents that are relevant. So this is a prime candidate for a good open source energy project. The downsides to open sourcing: you don't have IP protection, inventor takes the biggest risks, and experimenting with energy can be dangerous. So you have to have, some legal language in your text. We don't take any responsibility for this. If you're going to play around, take responsibility for yourself. The advantages of open sourcing: this viral effect. If you have a really good technology, that thing could just explode on the planet. Imagine if you had a design for a magnet motor, for example, that could run your house, and it costs maybe $5,000 in parts, and here's a list of places where you can go get one in Chicago. Here's another page for places where you can get sources in New South Wales, Australia. And the internet and wikis make this kind of viral dissemination of information possible, so that you don't have to wait for the GEs and the Siemens technology and BP Energy. You don't have to wait for them to ramp up and make products available publicly. You can just go and build one. And you have enough mechanical people around that they can start making them for their neighbors. So the planet could be revolutionized with new energy technology in a very short period of time through open sourcing. You have the widespread collaboration where, this guy over here comes up with a better way. He increases the efficiency by twofold if you make the magnets like this rather than that. Same magnet, but you get twice the output. You share this information. And the information is available for free, so the indigent can pursue it. And it moves away from this central power concept where you have the powers that be in power. It can basically, it brings the power to the people. So it's a very next generation, new era type of concept and a way of approaching things. And once one technology breaks through that logjam, then you have all these other technologies that have been, languishing for lack of funding, for lack of business expertise, for lack of patience. Somebody has a great idea, but they've got to put food on the table, so they put their thing on the shelf and they go work at McDonald's. Or, stories like this happen all the time. Somebody just needs $10,000 to build this prototype. This little one kind of worked, but to really prove it to the satisfaction of the venture capitalist, he needs $10,000, but no one's willing to cough it up. So, he's flipping hamburgers while he's got a technology that could bring energy to the world for 1/10 the cost. You had a comment, question? Okay. So once that one technology goes out there and people realize, aha, there really is something outside the box here that science says is impossible, what else have they said is impossible? And so it kind of, all of a sudden there's this mad rush to attack this new question. That's going to be an exciting time when that first technology really breaks through, and we're really close. It's going to happen soon. We're sitting on stuff right now that's just like, man, I wish I could tell you about this. I wish I could tell you about that. We're under non-disclosure here. This guy doesn't want us to talk about it. But there are some really good technologies out there that are just waiting, to punch through. One of these days, an open source energy technology is going to come along. Is there a philanthropic funding source available to finance the open source method, so the inventor is not expected to risk everything by giving it away? And that's what we're trying to build, is that bulwark that we can wrap around the inventor, that security, that hope. The ramifications, there are downsides and upsides, but we need to be cognizant that this revolution of new energy technology could be very disruptive, could result in the loss of lives, could result in wars, could result in social meltdown as the powers that be impose new draconian measures. It could get really ugly. And there's a lot of kind of doomsday scenarios that are painted as people. There have been inventors that have come up with stuff. For example, a way to generate hydrogen from water just by putting magnets in vicinity using a certain configuration. Off comes hydrogen. They put it on the shelf because it would have just completely revolutionized the planet, and they didn't want to do that. And so one of the things that needs to happen is there needs to be a dialogue about the ramifications and how to handle this stuff in a responsible way. Is the human race ready for free energy? If you can deploy an airplane, a drone, for $1,000 and fly it anywhere because you don't have to stop for fuel and just let it fly and drop its payload, you know, that would be the perfect weapon for a terrorist. Is our society ready for free energy? Are we ready to live in peace? The technology could bring peace, but will it bring war first? And how are we going to handle this technology as it comes forward? Same kind of arguments were brought forward when the computers started coming on the scene. It's going to put people out of jobs. It's going to, you know, a lot of negative comments about computers, yet we all know that it created a whole bunch of jobs, increased the quality of life. Overall, it was a good thing, even though there were some adjustments that had to be made. And it will be the same way as these free energy technologies increase on the planet. We can bring water to the deserts where water was not possible before. We can desalinate ocean water cheaply. We eliminate the problem with water. So there are so many solutions that can be brought forward with new energy, clean energy technology that will be cheaper, more abundant, and we can replace the existing scarcity mentality with an abundance mentality. And that's the world of the future. And as I close this presentation, I want to give thanks to the tools that have been brought forward by people such as you in this room and those you're networked with. I can't tell you how useful the internet, email, YouTube, it's really, really cracking open the suppression that has been on this new energy technology. It gives us the ability to finally break through this logjam. The collaboration capability, the monetization, you know, just by having good content on a website, we can make a living providing that content because of Google ads. So thanks to you all. We really appreciate you. Credits for this presentation, I mentioned the New Energy Congress. The New Energy Movement is an organization that predated the New Energy Congress. I'm also on the board of directors of that one. And it has kind of an educational purview. And I should mention that Joel Garvey, who you're going to see in this next picture, is the one who was going to be speaking at this conference. He was not available. He's the one who talked to Chris at another conference. He was giving a presentation. Chris was very impressed with him and said, you know, you got to come speak at NOMDEX. And he said, well, I can't, but here's who you can talk to. And he recommended me. So thanks to Joel. And thanks to Chris and Ponzi Pirillo for having this event. And thanks to all of you for coming. The video that you saw was produced by Joe Rizzo and Bill Levine. These are new people with the PES network. We have a great team. That's going to be the first of many videos that we'll be putting out thanks to the tools that you're creating, working on. And just a little plug from Joel Garvey. I was talking to him on the phone a little earlier. They're looking for a webmaster for their website. There's his phone number if you know of anyone who can maybe help them out. Voluntary at first, then as funding comes in, they'll be able to pay that position. Thank you for coming to the presentation. Here is a list of some of our websites. FreeEnergyNews.com is a daily gathering of information from around the planet. We've been doing this for about 4 years. Every day, we've missed maybe 2 days in 4 years of having some kind of content every day. Everything from solar, wind, geothermal, anything that's pushing the envelope, making energy cheaper, more affordable, more reliable, etc. We have stories of our own at pesn.com. PESWiki is where we have a community collaborative listing of directory content, open source projects. It's basically the Wikipedia of energy. And then our company website is pureenergysystems.com. And newenergycongress.org is where you can get more information. That's actually housed at PESWiki. And then there's my contact information for those of you that don't have a visual on that. sterlingda@pureenergysystems.com. And hopefully there are no voice bots that can pick that up and spam me. And talking about spam, just totally off the subject, I found CloudMark to be the best spam filter. It's a community, it's basically an open source spam filter so that if spam gets into your inbox, you mark it as spam and it goes into a collective pool of saying, okay, this message is spam. It's a very instantaneous community policing type of program. So CloudMark is what you want to use. Thank you for your time, and we can go to questions.
You good?
Yeah,
You
questions.
Good? Oh, question, good. I think we got a little bit of time.
3 minutes for questions?
Ish.
Right here. I was wondering if you could tell me how you reconcile the ideas of open source energy with a non-disclosure agreement.
Those are irreconcilable. There are some inventors who are willing to go open source, but most don't. Most inventors that I know of want to go through the traditional route, and that's fine. It's going to take a special person with a special temperament to go open source, and they're rare. We haven't found yet a technology that has those attributes we're looking for that's willing to open source it. Yeah.
Why haven't all of these technologies happened yet?
Why haven't the technologies happened yet? A lot of them have, but none have made it to the market yet. Well, solar and wind they have, but it's just, there's a lot of reasons. There is suppression, but one of the biggest things I've noticed is interpersonal conflicts, people that can't get along with each other, infighting. The own worst enemy phenomena is one of the worst obstacles in any industry. And what happens when you get outside the box is you get quirky personalities. These guys are geniuses. They never learn their social graces. They don't know how to talk on the phone. They don't know how to write business plans. And so the own worst enemy phenomena is a huge obstacle in this industry. And that's one of the things we're trying to, that the web helps with, the social engineering. It gives some sense of community to these people who are otherwise isolated, so they can have this sense of relief that I do have friends, I can work, and that still takes time though. But they will come forward. When I was working on this 4 years ago, I was thinking, next year we'll see this hit the market. It hasn't happened yet, but it will. Yeah.
You mentioned that a lot of these inventors are concerned that they won't get compensation for their inventions.
Yeah.
I was just reminded of the XPrize, Richard Branson, and I'm wondering, why aren't these philanthropic millionaires coming up with, just a pittance like $2 million towards a prize for free energy that can be peer reviewed by an organization like Pure Energy Systems? Do you know of anything like that? Yeah,
there's what I can say is I see a lot of good movement. There are people with money who are offering the money. It's just a matter, you have to vet money just as much as you have to vet the technologies. You have people that say, hey, I've got a rich uncle, he's willing to put up money, but by the time you go and chase it down, it turns out that, well, maybe after, it takes time to vet all that stuff and put it together, but it is happening. There are prizes that are being offered, and this stuff is going to move forward. Maybe one more question, then, well, okay, right there.
I was curious to know if we needed to perfect the next level of the open source energy before going to the second level version. Like we haven't perfected really wind and solar and all that, so should we go the next step before, perfecting those?
We can do both of those at the same time. We can continue perfecting the existing technologies. That will go on irregardless whether there's a new technology. The new technology, everyone has their specialties and interests and gifts and talents on this planet. There's plenty for everyone to do. Chasing the exotic ones, perfecting the existing ones. It's an endless process. Thank you again.
Here's some good ways, man. Cool. Cool. Thank you again, Sterling. I guess we have to try to make the impossible